Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is episode number 165 of Frono's Photo RAWtalk. If you're new here, and by new here, I mean new here because last week you listened to the episode with Tony Northrup and I, welcome. This is not a normal episode again because Steven, who is normally my co-host, is coming back from vacation today, and that is why he's not here, but I'm pretty sure he will be back for next week's episode, and we will be back doing RAWtalk the way that we've been doing it for the last 160-plus weeks in this iteration of the podcast. And if you didn't know, now you know. Oh, and our old podcast, I started podcasting back in 2011, I believe, and it's seen many different forms and iterations since that time. We were one of the early podcasting people to video podcast, and now we don't do the video podcast because everybody does the video podcast, and even the people that do it don't do it well, in my opinion. Don't do it well. And why don't they do it well? Because it's just shitty quality. It's just online, let's record our webcams and not actually create a set, create actual cameras, and make it interesting. And that's why one of the reasons we stopped doing it a few years ago is it was taking a lot of time and a lot of effort. But whatever. Beside the point. Welcome. Hello. I've got things to talk about this week because I'm flying solo. I didn't ask Tony to come on this week. We're going to talk about Tony. We're going to discuss some of the comments that came in over the people put them up on, geez, why can't I say it? Spotify. But I should also go look at some of the top comments on YouTube while we're at it and read them and give some feedback. I'm going to talk about this Cal Raleigh photograph that I did, Big Dumper. He is the AL leading candidate for, home runs, RBIs, and he's probably on his way, hopefully, to be an MVP for the Mariners and the American League. So I want to talk about the portrait I attempted to get with my 4x5 there. I got an email out of nowhere about photos I took in 2005. Talk about that. We've got new gear from Nikon, new gear from Sigma, and a discussion about Canon RF glass because someone left a comment that said, considering getting rid of my Canon due to lack of RF options. Well, I've got a lot to say about that. But before we do that, let's start off with some Tony Northrup comments and feedback. Tony and I go way back. Off air, Tony and I have a great time just hanging out. And we had a great time with Chelsea back in the day, too. Always great hanging out at events with those two because they just were really fun. We have disagreements when it comes to certain things in photography, and we discussed a lot of those agreements last week on the episode, namely the RAW versus JPEG discussion, which is not even a discussion at this point, the EVF holding out, using the screen, the LCD screen instead of the EVF, and it goes a lot deeper than that. We're different types of creators. I consider myself, and this isn't putting anybody down, so don't go Jared's putting you down. No, I am a photographer who so happens to make YouTube videos. Tony loves photography and makes YouTube videos, right? There's this has been what I have been doing since I was 13. And so I like to consider myself a photographer who so happens to create YouTube videos where, in general, this isn't just Tony, there's a lot of people who like to make videos who so happen to take pictures. So there's a difference there. And that's why I have some people would call it stubbornness, stubbornness or hard-headedness, which some of these comments talk about. But I'm going to counter those points. I don't believe that you should temper your opinions that are based in facts and reality for you just because other people think that it's over the top or stubbornness and you don't change and you're hard-headed. No, I don't agree with that just because you do something a specific way. So let's look at some of these comments. We've got Dennis said this on Spotify. We've got great episode, lots of passionate points made, but as others have already said, it's about getting the shot. If EVF works, great. If not, back screen has its place for certain. Well, yeah, I've always said that the back screen, the LCD, has its place for getting high and getting low. Right in front of you, I do not agree. Oh, and Tony's point about if you hold the camera out in front of you with the strap, that somehow it's just as stable as holding it up to your face with your elbows tucked and being in a tripod position. he says it's science and he tested it. I would like him to see that. I'd like him to do that in a video. There is no way it is more stable out in front of you than it is tucked against your eye with your elbows tucked in a tripod stance. It's just science, physics, just not. So, and I don't want to make a video to be like, look, Tony, you are wrong. Because one, I don't want to go through that process. And two, it's just a lot of work for not a lot of reasons that I would do that. So, anyway, what else did he says? If not the packs are in the place. Also, 100% agree with Jared that we should get the shot on camera, but anyone claiming to never crop is standing on principle that isn't reality. Sometimes cropping is simply a necessity, a necessary evil. Well, I don't agree, Dennis. I don't agree. I don't agree that standing on principle and saying that it's not reality. No, it might not be a reality for you, but it's a reality for me. I choose to shoot the way that I shoot because of how I started shooting back in the day. When I went into the darkroom, raised the enlarger up to the sky as high as it would go to try and get that play at second base, and it looked flat and grainy, and I asked my teacher, why does this look so bad? And he's like, well, you raise the enlarger, which means you're enlarging the imperfections. You're enlarging the grain. He said, crop in the camera, not in the darkroom. And I took that to heart at about 15 years old. Maybe it was 14 or it was probably 15 years old when I was in 10th grade, and the teacher said that. Or actually, maybe that teacher said it when I was 16, so it was a year after, because I had a different teacher the first year, Mr. Bauer, and then I had Mr. Islinger when I went on. But that's something that resonated with me in a time where obviously you weren't shooting digital, and film has a certain amount that you can enlarge it and a certain amount you can grow it. And so imperfections start to show up much quicker the more you crop. And so I took it upon myself to not crop. I took it upon myself to be like, well, the best quality is going to happen if I fill the frame and compose the way that I think you should compose. And that carried on into the digital world. Also, I always found it fascinating, even in the film world, and I've told this story a few times, I believe, is that when I was like 18, 19 years old shooting hockey, big fan of Bruce Bennett's work, always wanted to work with Bruce Bennett and meet him, and we've become friends now. Back in the day, I in college, I had a portfolio. My portfolio was made up of entirely hockey images because that's what I wanted to do after college. And there was a big fight with the teachers, like, you can't do this. I'm like, well, why can't I do this? This is what I do. You do portraits and fashion, which I think is bullshit, and you think what I'm doing is bullshit, but why would I do a portrait and fashion portfolio when sports is the world that I want to live in? So what happened is I took my portfolio that was comprised of entirely of hockey photos, but they all had the negative carrier in them, meaning they had the sprocket holes from the 35 millimeter film because we ground out the negative carriers. Somebody did. Basically, they would take a file and the negative carrier, think of this, it's this piece of metal, it's two pieces that's sandwiched together, and it has an opening in the middle that's 35 millimeters. That is where you put your film strip, so that's what you put into the darkroom. It's in the enlarger to develop. Well, if you want to get the sprocket holes to show that you composed it properly in camera or you are thinking with intent, well, then someone would file out the negative carrier, right? So that it would be larger than the 35 millimeter opening. Thus, when you expose light through it, you end up getting all of the sprocket holes there. So that is how you show the entire frame. So my entire portfolio was done this way because Marcia Goldner Triger, I believe was her name, the first day of class in college, she gave us negative carriers. Sorry, slide mounts. And she said, see the world through this. You are not allowed to crop in my class. And some people might say, that's harsh. And she's just like, no, I want to see that you shot with intent. I don't know if she used those exact words, but she's like, I want to see what how you composed it. And it makes you think different. It makes you think about how you want to capture your image. And so it translates even when it's fast-paced action. You're constantly thinking of your composition. She wanted to make sure that we used a ground-out negative carrier so that we showed the entire negative and that you didn't compose after the fact or recompose or change what you did after the fact. And so when I'm showing these hockey photographers from Bruce Bennett's studio, not Bruce Bennett, my portfolio at 19 years old in the press cafeteria before games, and they're going, "What is this? What is this black stuff around your image?" I'm like, "That's the negative." And they're like, "What do you mean this is the neg?" I'm like, "This isn't. None of these images are cropped." And they're like, "Well, we crop everything." I'm like, "But I filled the frame and didn't crop it." So my understanding of how sports photographers got those tight shots was I thought they composed in the camera. I was unaware for years that they did crop, that all sports photos in Sports Illustrated were cropped. There's a great Sports Illustrated book. Let me see if I can pull it up if Amazon still has it. I think it's called Sports Illustrated Slides. Let's see. Sports Illustrated Slideshow. Oh, it's called Sports Illustrated Slideshow. There are hardcover books. It's $29. I might just go ahead and buy another one of this. What is so awesome about the Sports Illustrated Slideshow, ages 12 years and up, what I love about this book from 2009, it shows the slides from the most famous photos up until that point from Sports Illustrated. So it has all of the data on there. So what we would say is metadata now was put on the slide carrier. So some of it was stamped, some of it was typewritten, some of it was done with stickers. So all the original notes are there. But you then get to see the original photo, and then you get to see the retouched, like how they would have cropped it for the cover. They would take a horizontal and crop it vertically. And so I was unaware that this was happening my entire life, unaware. And so I took it upon myself to be like, well, if this is how they shoot, I want to shoot like them. And I did it with shitty gear. And so that continues on today. Of course, I don't have the shitty gear today, but I don't buy into this idea that sometimes cropping is simply a necessary evil. I can't read good. How is it a necessary evil? I go into it not wanting to crop, and that's my take. If you want to crop, go for it. But there's a reason that my 4 megapixel and 12 megapixel images can be blown up to 4 feet by 6 feet without you sitting there going, "Oh my God, the quality looks so bad." And I remember this when selling cameras back in the day. I don't believe in the cropping. That's my reasoning. I don't think it's stubbornness. I don't think it's hard-headedness. It comes down to quality and the fact that I'm shooting with intent. And I'm not saying you're not shooting with intent, but what's crazy is when I taught Troy and Katie and my friend Shelly all to take photos the way that I wanted, the way that I would capture them. We talk about not cropping, and so that they go out as a fresh new photographer. 2 of them went with me to Kenya last year with R3s and 100 to 500s, and none of their images, well, I can't say none of them. I did crop a couple of Troy's just to show them different compositions, but the majority of what they were taking didn't need to be cropped because they were shooting with intent. They were shooting with my tutelage out there, and they did an incredible job. And Shelly, when I took her out for like the 3rd time she ever used her camera to a Civil War reenactment, what she was able to do was incredible. I forced her to use just an 85 millimeter on I think it was the R6 or the R6 Mark II. I think it's the R6 that I let her use. And then I gave her like a 24 to 105. But with the 85, you have to compose. You have to think about this stuff. And yeah, when you're starting out, utilize cropping to train your brain for what the frame could have been. And so that when you're training your brain using cropping, you're training it so that the next time you encounter something similar, you start off with a composition that is more thought out for the final results. I'm not going to give that up. I'm not going to give up this idea that every image needs to be cropped. Steven disagrees. Steven has his style for how he crops, and his he does a lot of straightening. That's a totally different thing. I don't agree with straightening all the, like, I'm not going to straighten everything. I'm going to try and get it as right in the camera as possible for me. Anyway, then we've got Liam Wood. Jared giving off huge, quote, yeah, but vibes here. It's funny when you put them both side by side, you see the difference in attitude is stark. Well, yeah, we have different attitudes. I mean, yeah, but I don't know what he's referring to in there. But we've got Diego said, got this far. Okay, that's great. 3 days ago, we've got Blackhand 28210. This is definitely one of the best episodes of RAWtalk. Whenever Steven is out, having Vanessa, Joy, and Tony as a rotating guest is awesome. Would like to hear from Todd sometime. We're not going to hear from Todd anytime anymore. Audio was good, got this far. Let's see. Love it. Should do more photography debates. All right. It's interesting listening to these photo experts talk on their level. Let's see. And here's one I guess I replied to. All right. This is from Hambone the Happy. I'm a fan and follow you both, as well as taken and used advice from you two every day. I do agree with getting it right in camera and do as little cropping as possible, but sometimes you got to use the screen. Other times, you got to use the EVF. The biggest difference between the two of you is Tony's speaking to the photography community and Jared is speaking about himself. The photo is what matters. How you look through your camera to get it means shit. And I don't agree fully with that. I don't agree with how you look through the camera, doesn't mean anything. I've stated my cases for why the stability of how you hold onto the camera. I don't agree with looking like it gives you a deeper connection with your model to keep eye contact. No, it doesn't. It just doesn't. It's just a bad argument. You see so many people today, younger people, and now older people too, holding the camera out. And I watched a girl do this yesterday. She's 23. How do I know she's 23? Because she made this statement in the press room, in the media room, that she was at graduation for other like high school people or something. And she was just like, they were 19 and it just made me feel so old. I'm like, what are you, 23? She goes, yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's not old. And I don't, I'm 44, but I don't sit there and be like, I don't feel old. Do I know I'm older when these people are 20? Yeah, but I watch them come out on the field and take a photo. In one hand, they have the DJI 360, the DJI camera on a gimbal thing in one hand for content, and in the other they have their Sony camera with the lens hood on the wrong way. And then they're taking pictures of like the baseball bat, but what they're doing is like holding the camera out in front of them and then just pressing the shutter button and not really shooting with intent. Are they going to get the photo? Yeah. But what you see is that they're taking 73 photos to get the one photo because they're hoping that they can pluck one of them out there that actually was what they wanted. A lot of it comes down to the intent of shooting. I've said a million times, shoot high, shoot low. If that's what you want to do, oh, my dad's calling. I should probably bring him up. Let me call him right back. I forgot. Steven's not on to yell at me, so let me see. He's probably going to ask, how was bowling? And I'm going to tell him fucking horrible. Yeah, I'm making a podcast with myself. What's going on?
You're making a podcast? Well, I have a cute little story to tell you. That's right. It's Thursday morning. Where's your cohort in crime today? He's on
vacation. He's coming back today, I believe.
Oh, okay. Just a cute little tidbit that even your audience might appreciate. So you remember the name Monet Davis?
Monet Davis, baseball pitcher, Little League World Series, Philadelphia. Yes.
Correct. Okay. So last night, she threw out the first pitch at the Washington Nationals New York Mets game. The person who she threw the pitch to was a fellow by the name of Hullis. Do you know what Hullis's claim to fame is?
No.
Okay, he was struck out by Monet Davis in the Little League World Series.
Okay.
Okay. I just thought that was a cute little thing. And you seemed totally nonplussed by the whole thing. Oh, well, I tried. I got excited when I heard the story because I thought that was great. A Little League World Series kid ends up going to the major leagues. and she ends up doing what she's doing, which is pretty terrific.
No, you're
stuff.
saying the catcher's in the majors. I didn't realize. I thought he was just a person that did what. No, so
No, he's on the Nationals roster.
Oh, all right, that's cool.
And yeah, that's what I'm saying. And she threw the opening first pitch to him.
All right.
So however long ago Monet Davis was, which was probably either 2010 or 2011, that was the Chris Thomas World Series that he did for the Little League.
Yep.
That's why I thought that was such an interesting little snippet.
All right.
That's all. Just wanted to share it with you. Hi to all of your people on your podcast, and we will talk to you.
Well, do you want to tell them how your experience at the boot camp went that you attended?
Well, I did a lot of watching and a lot of listening, and I still have a tremendous amount of learning to do. I need to get together with you personally so we can go over some things, because I'm not real proficient. Yesterday, I had a deer who was within 5 feet of me, leaning against the house. It was a Bambi, and I went and I grabbed the camera, and for whatever reason, I could not focus in. I changed the lens. I put the smaller lens on. I took the lens caps off and all that stuff, and then I went to look at her, at Bambi, and tried to shoot her, and I couldn't focus in.
Okay.
So I don't know what I didn't do that I obviously needed to do. So I felt pretty stupid about it, because it would have been a great shot. She was literally outside the back door window. So in that little bed to the right of the window, literally 24 inches from me.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. Yeah, don't kick yourself over it. It's not National Geographic's, but you got to figure out.
It would have been a great shot to get that close. And I'm already that close, and I put the smaller lens on there, and I just couldn't focus it.
Yeah, I got to check your focusing modes. Maybe did you check to see that you didn't accidentally hit the switch on the side that said AF to M?
I did not. Well, I did try to focus in by turning the
focus,
lens,
the focus ring,
and it did not help. I could not get a clear shot, and when I did the half press on the button, it wouldn't focus in. I could not focus.
Was focusing moving at all?
Not really. I didn't have the block right. I had the blocks off to the side, and it just didn't go well.
It's possible. It could be that camera, and you don't know how to move the focusing points. It's a thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's why I need to get together with you so we can do this personally, and that would be a great thing. And but I enjoyed the boot camp. I did. It was all about composition and learning how to compose your photos and what's a good shot and what's not a good shot, and making sure the toes are not cut off and there's not too much space at the top, and that you don't want the picture completely centered. You want it a little bit off to the side so it gives it more panache instead of just a standard centered photo that doesn't have anything to it. And you want to concentrate on eyes and things like that. So I listened and I learned, and now I just need to be able to put it into practice.
Yep.
So, all right.
All right.
I will talk to you soon.
All right. Later.
Bye.
Bye. And that's a conversation with my dad. That's yeah. So I'll get back to this cropping discussion, which hopefully isn't boring the piss out of you. But we did have the boot camp this weekend. I'm going to schedule one for October 11th. That's the date that we're scheduling the next one. So it's a little less than 2 months away, but I haven't put it up yet. Maybe I'll get it up by tomorrow. If you just go to the website, I'll put it on the front page, frontnosphoto.com. I'll just put up there as a post that it will say, next boot camp is this, with a link to going to the boot camp to make a purchase. But yeah, I think we want to try one in the fall. October 11th is what we're scheduling for here in Philly. I believe that is the weekend of Columbus Day, so maybe it's easier for some people to travel that weekend. and that's what we're going to consider to do one in October. It went really well. We had a great group, different than the group from the last boot camp prior was really like 50 years and older. This had a great mix. We had a 15-year-old show up. He so happens to be 6'5", so you wouldn't realize that he's 15, but we had 15-year-olds. We had a father-son. My dad came here. We had a mix of everybody. We had some people from foreign countries. Unbelievable. Like, really, really was really good event again. So yeah, and my dad attended. He wanted to do it. I mean, he hasn't really shot anything, but he needs to shoot more. But I'm sitting here with R3s now. I don't know that I want to let it. I think an R3 would help him from the standpoint of when he shoots vertical, his hands will feel better, because watching him fumble with the EOS R vertically without a grip is kind of hard to watch. But also with the R3, I would have to set it a certain way to turn off certain buttons. I might end up just putting an R3 in his hands. I know. I have 2 extra R3s sitting here right now, and I know that sounds bad to be giving, but I just think the lightness of it and the ergonomics of it would be better for him, and of course the focus is going to be far superior to the EOS R, and it should help him. I might need to turn the damn thing not on 30 frames a second and whatever. It's the hardest thing is when someone's starting out is it's always human error, or they just don't know what they don't know. So if there's a way to move a focusing point, they don't know how to do that yet. Okay. All right. I read a bunch of these things. Let's see. Fun episode. Respect your consistency, but sound like you need to be a bit more flexible, Jared, unless you enjoy making life difficult on yourself or difficult for yourself. And I also look at that and say, what exactly am I making more difficult? I don't find it to be more difficult. So anyway, that's what I have to say right there. All right, I'm done with that episode. Anyway, it was great having Tony on. I hope to hang out with Tony more when I get into the city in New York. We hang out well as we try not to talk about certain topics, because then we'd sit there and have a debate on and on. So let's talk about Cal Raleigh, my 4x5 project. It's not about like relitigating the entire project or talking about him specifically, but the Mariners came to town, to Philly. They had 3 games, 2 afternoon games and 1 day game, which was yesterday, a 1:05 start. So when the Phillies play at 6:45 on a home game, they generally take batting practice 3 hours prior. They actually start taking infield around 3:20 to 3:30 or 3:10, around 3 o'clock, they start doing that. And there's also some players like Nick Castellanos who comes out before the game, way before batting practice, to do his own early batting practice to get more reps in. But general batting practice is about 3:45 till 4:45, and then the opposing team, the Mariners, would get the field from 4:45 to 5:45. That's how it all works. So for the first game on Monday, I got there super early. My goal was to hopefully get there at 2:45, be out on the field, because possibly what if someone from the Mariners or Cal Raleigh from the Mariners comes out and does early stretching or does something that gives me an opportunity to speak to him, show him the 4x5 project, and hopefully get him to sit for a portrait. So that was my thinking. I also talked to Mystery Man Jr., Ken Griffey Jr., obviously, he played for the Mariners. He's also a part owner, to see if he could message ahead to maybe the PR person to talk to me to see if there's something we could do. And we ended up, connecting with that PR guy thanks to Junior, which was helpful. But mind you, most of this other project, it has just been me talking to players and getting them to just be like, oh, that's cool, I want to do this. Or some of them actually know me because they know they're into photography, so they know my work. Like Sean Minaya knows my work. Like a couple of the guys who were on the Colorado Rockies knew my work, which made it much easier to have them sit down last year with me. So the idea here, I get here early, get the camera out on the field. I have my Printique book. I have to sneeze. It's an 8x8 square book with my 4x5 stuff, so I can quickly pull it out to show someone. It is so much better being tangible than showing somebody a phone and being like, cool, look, it's a phone. We have such high quality images that we take, and we dumb it down by showing people on a phone. That's why if you like this whole idea of cropping, and you see these videos now where people are like the shot versus the crop. And it's like a shitty photo, and then they crop 90% of it away just to focus on one thing, and you're like, yeah, that was fucking stupid. But anyway, I don't want to get back into the cropping discussion. I'm on the field, it's 2:45. Turns out that the Mariners are not going to take batting practice this day, so Cal's not going to be most likely coming out. And he didn't come out. But I did talk to the PR guy, and I said, hey, if he, here's the book. If you want to take it back to show him what I'm doing, he's like, I can go back and I can ask him if he'd like to come out. I waited till 6 o'clock just in case. He didn't come out, and that's no knock or slight on the PR guy. All he could do was ask. I was hoping that he would at least come back out and ask me or tell me that he wasn't going to be available. So anyway, I was like, whatever. Not that I gave up, but I packed up my stuff, 0 photos taken, $25 down for parking, and I went home. Actually, yeah, it was Monday, so I went home after that, and I don't remember what I did for dinner. I don't remember what I did for dinner on Monday. Actually, I think we went to get pizza, a friend of mine. That's what we might have done. Not that you guys care. So I was like, whatever, it didn't happen. Should I try again Tuesday? Because I'm like, I got bowling that night, and I need to be at dinner at like 5:45 and whatever. So I'm like, you know what? Instead of just sitting at the studio, twiddling my thumbs, because I don't have much to do sometimes. People have this misconception that I'm so goddamn busy. Well, I can be. But Steven's away right now. I've done a lot of my tasks and other busy work I just don't feel like doing. So if I get in at 7:30 in the morning or earlier, then why do I need to sit here after 2, 3, 4 o'clock just to sit here because I feel like, well, other people are working 9 to 5. I should work 7 to 5. That's my brain. That's just my brain. So anyway, I'm like, I pack up my stuff. I go to the stadium, not as early as before because I know they're not going to do the super early thing. They're definitely going to take batting practice because they didn't do it the day before. And I get to the field. I set up. I waited. Oh, mind you, I waited over 3 hours the first day. And I came back, and I knew that I was going to wait again. And so I'm there at 3 o'clock, right around 3. I think it was around 3:30. And I'm waiting. And no Cal, he's not out yet. But I know that the manager is going to do a sit down with the media. They always sit on the bench, and the media ask a bunch of questions, and the PR guy comes out. So I talked to the PR guy again. I'm like, hey. And he was like, oh, whoa. Like, he got a little scared. I didn't sneak up on him, but I was just like, you got to try, right? If you don't ask, you're not going to get. And I'm like, hey, I'm back today. I know it didn't work out yesterday, but I figured I'd try again. Can you check with Cal? He's like, I'll ask him again. I let him know yesterday, but I will ask him again, and we'll see what happens. And so the other players start coming out. They've got bats. So I know batting practice is about to happen. I see Cal finally come out. He goes up to the fans they're on the field that have special passes, and he signs a few autographs and takes a few pictures, and then he walks over to me. And before I get to that, I was pre-planning a specific shot. I had a shot in mind. So I had the camera set already to vertical because I knew where I wanted the shot to be done in the dugout, where it's even lighting. There is no possibility, the sun's not in the way. There's no bad shadows. The light bounces back off the field or the dugout stairs or whatever and back into the player's face, which is great. But there was a specific angle that I want. And you can look at the picture, the final results at my Instagram at Jared Polin, JaredPolin. And you can see the final result. I haven't even talked about the shot much yet, but you can see it if you take a look right now. And I knew where I wanted to do the shot. So he comes over to me and he's like, hey. And I'm like, hi. I'm like, so what I'm doing is I'm using this old school camera to take modern day portraits. It's from 1940s. Here's the book. And I flipped through the wrong pages first. I should have shown him some of the catchers that I've done that would have helped. But I show him a couple of the portraits, and I said, I have an idea. I just need about 5 minutes to make it happen. He's like, I don't have 5 minutes. I'm like, I can do it in 2. He's like, all right, let's do it. I'm like, you want to do it now or do it after BP? He's like, well, let's hammer it out now. I'm like, all right, I'll meet you right down there. And I point to the where in the dugout, and I lift up my camera, start recording my forehead, start recording the 360 camera because I like to record this just so you can see the process. And I set the camera where I want it, and I tell him, look, once I'm focused, you can't move because it's going to be, I lock my focus in, and if you move, then it's going to mess up the shot. The idea is I want you to lean back on the where the players put their bats, right? It's like a bat holder, and then above it is the helmet rack where the helmet cubbies. And so it's kind of a cool baseball-centric type thing. I get my composition. I already looked at my exposure before he ever came out. I already used my light meter app to look in the area, and I knew that with 100-speed film, it's at 1/125th of a second at it was like f2.3 to 2.5, and that's a 2.5 lens that I never really want to shoot wide open because it's going to be very difficult to get focus because it's like f1 equivalent. So I knew that, and if I had more time, I was going to see what 1/50th of a second would give me, because that would be basically half of that, and that would have given me like f4, and that would have been 1/50th at f4, proper exposure. That's important because we'll talk about the exposure in a second. So I take the first photo. I didn't really like the composition very much, but then, and he also didn't sit back the way I wanted him to do it. So I took that photo. It was him just really standing there, bat on his shoulder, whatever. I don't get to see the results until I develop it. But then he sits back the way that he should have. I'm like, all right, great. I lift the camera, I step closer, get a better composition, down low, tilt it back. I see that he's checking to make sure that the rawlings of the bat, the R, is sticking out so that it's facing the camera, which is great because you want to see that. He's got his Franklin gloves on. I lock in my focus. Same exposure. Oh, by the way, remember, I said that the exposure was 1/125th of a second at f2.5, right around there with the 100-speed film. I discovered 6 shutter speeds. I only thought I had 3 for 2 years. For a year and a half, I thought I only had 3 shutter speeds: 1/30th, 1/125th, and 1/500th. I didn't know that there was a switch that would then switch it to 1/1000th, 1/250th, and 1/50th. So when you do that, those are your exposures. But when you put 1/500th and the 1/125th and the 1/30th, there's a governor in there that slows it down a certain amount to counteract the faster shutter speed. I had no idea. So I probably would have been better at 1/50th. But anyway, I set my lens to and this is the original lens that I've been using for the entire project, and I set it to right above f4 because I've realized recently that the taped on f-stops and the scratch on the side of the lens don't exactly line up perfectly. So if it's at f2.5, it actually is not perfectly set to what f2.5 would be. Mind you, I have a newer version of a cleaner version of this lens that has click stops. So it clicks in at f4, it clicks in at 2.5, it clicks in at 5, 6, and 8, and 11, and 16. This one doesn't. This one just opens and closes. So it's not an exact science with this one. So I was like, you know what? I want to make sure that I want it right above f4. But at 1/125th, I knew the exposure was going to be wrong. I knew it was going to be underexposed. But I also know that with 4x5 film, and with film, you have a 2 to 3 stop latitude. Like, you don't want to be off that far, but I knew that I had it. And I knew that I had to get the shot quickly because he gave me 2 minutes. So I get the second shot. After the game, so I thank him, all that great stuff. He had a couple of questions. He's very dry, and it's hard to read him, but I'm sure he's extremely busy and sought after, and a lot of, and you got to be guarded with those situations. So I don't take any of that personally, but he was fine. He did what I asked, and I thanked him. So great. I come back after bowling's over because I go to bowling, and then I go home to develop the 2 negatives. Usually you could do 6, but I didn't have 6 shots, so I did the 2. I processed them at night so that they could be dried in the morning so that I could then scan the negatives to then bring a print to the field if it worked out. The last thing I want is the photo to be so bad. So I look at the negatives after they come out of the developer fixer water wash, and I'm like, wow, they look thin. And when you say they look thin, that means underexposed. But the second shot looked better, slightly better than the first. I liked the composition better. And even just eyeing it up with my eye, looking at the negative, it looked like it was going to be sharp. Next day morning, I come in, I scan the first negative because I knew that wasn't going to be the good one. Whichever order I scanned. No, I actually scanned the good negative first, and it was great. Then I scanned the second negative, which was the first shot, and I was like, oh, this is the shittiest photo ever. It is so bad. It is not in focus. It's a bad composition. Terrible. Like my bad. Like really fucking bad. It would have been bad if that was the only shot. And the second shot is the exact opposite. I believe almost the perfect composition, like really well composed. It is underexposed by like 2.5 stops, but you bring all of that back without an issue in the darkroom when I developed it, brought it back. Looks beautiful. Nice and it's sharp when you zoom in 1:1 on a massive scan. It's pretty. And it's great. The only feedback that some people said is they didn't like that the one bat was like between his legs, but whatever, that doesn't bother me. I look at the rest of the composition and think it's freaking incredible. So anyway, go check out that photo. I'm getting a phone call. Oh, I can't take it right meow. I'll have to take it later. But go look at that photo of Cal Raleigh. And the moral of the story here is I waited 3+ hours the first day, 2+ hours the second day. So we're talking 5.5 to 6 hours of waiting for 2 minutes to get the one shot. I didn't give up. I went back and I did it. But I had the patience to wait. You never know. And part of going on the first day is to make some sort of introduction for the hope that they're like, well, I'm busy today. Can you come back tomorrow? And you're like, yep. And you've made the acquaintance, and then hopefully they come back and work with you. Well, that didn't work out with Mike Trout the last time they were in town. I saw him, I showed him, and he's like, can you come back tomorrow? I came back tomorrow, and he just didn't even come back to me. And I didn't push the issue because I kind of wanted to see what was going to happen. But it didn't happen. But I got the Cal Raleigh shot, and the moral is it's 6 hours. And what's funny is the security, every team has a head of security now. And I was talking to the head of security guy the first day, not a lot, because he's security and he's, a badass. He's a tough guy, not in a bad way, but he was helpful when I asked him for something. But the second day he's like, back for more. Like he saw that, and he was sitting on the bench 5 feet from where we were doing this photo shoot the second day. And when it was done, he was like, all that waiting for 2 minutes, eh? He knew. He's like, he saw me the day before. I'm like, yeah, it's like, you got to be patient. Like, you got to put yourself in the situation to be successful, and you got to wait it out. It's no different than those nature and wildlife photographers who are out waiting 6, 7, 8 hours or days to get nothing, or waiting for that titmouse, grouse, whatever, to show its head, and they get the shot. Like, that's the thing. Do I like waiting? No. Would I prefer as much time as I want? Sure. Like 5-10 minutes? Sure. But I got my 2 minutes and I got the shot. So very happy with those results. Moving on, I might have to cut some stuff because of my dad's phone call and my talking about cropping so long. But the next thing is interesting. I got an email about some photos that I did in 2005. They came in and they were asking if I had photos of these specific people. It was a movie shoot that was being done. A kid I went to high school with was making a feature film in Bucks County. It's called The Book of Caleb. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And I wanted to get involved as doing the on-set photography. They didn't have someone, so they let me do that. I don't believe I got paid. No, I didn't get paid. And so I would show up on my own dime. Not that I had much going on in 2005 anyway. I was 24 years old and trying to figure out my life and living at home, trying to just go shoot as much as I could. And you never know. So anyway, I go out on the set every day. I'm doing these photos. And one of the scenes they have involves rock skipping. Yeah, rock skipping is a thing. So they had 2 professional rock skippers come in that they contacted to, I guess, coach their actor on how to rock skip. And so I guess I took a couple of photos of these people out there because I don't know who they are. Anyway, I'm taking pictures of the whole show, the whole movie, right? All the behind the scenes. That's what I'm there to capture, using a D2H back in the day. And so I get this email, and they're looking for these 2 specific people that were consulting. So I go into the Froarchive today. I have something called Z_Deep Archive. That's what I titled the folder way back in the day so that it would always be right there at the bottom. And if you want something always to be at the top, you do like tilde. That is if you hold shift and it's the next to the 1 key on an Apple keyboard. It's that squiggly line that looks like a it's a horizontal squiggly line that looks like a wave. That's a tilde, I believe. but I do that because that shows up higher than 1, and that's just so you can find stuff in the hierarchy. So I go back in the archive, I'm looking through the photos. I have RAW plus JPEG for each image because back then I still wasn't sure. I only had that camera for about 2 years, the D2H, and I still wasn't sure about RAW plus JPEG or RAW or JPEG. So I was shooting RAW absolutely, and I may have been back down to JPEG small at the time, but I find photos of one of the rock skippers. I looked up a photo to see what he looked like, and I'm like, okay, this was, oh shit, it's 20 years ago. Holy fuck. So yeah, that matched the guy. And then the other photo of the other guy, I'm like, I don't know who the hell this guy is. I'm like, I don't remember photos of this guy. And then I'm going through my archive, and I'm like, okay, I got a photo of this guy. So I got like 6 or 7 photos of these guys, and I just emailed them to the people that are doing a documentary on them. I want to see if they have a budget first and just what they want to do with the images. Whatever. Like if they want to use them, I'll probably just let them use them. If they have, I don't know. If they have $100, I'm not going to take their $100. If it's a high budget thing, I'm going to take their money. If it's a low budget thing they're doing for the love of it, I'm not going to take their money. The moral here is there's always a discussion about what you do with all of your other files that you don't use, right? People are like, well, RAW files take up so much space. And I just don't know. I don't want to keep them all. I want to keep just the keepers. I know a professional sports shooter who does this, takes all the photos, deletes all of the non-keepers at the time, and just keeps the ones that he edited. I don't agree with that. And yeah, it's getting harder and harder with the pre-capture and how fast we're shooting. But the fact that I went back 20 years in an instant to my RAW files that I re-edited better than the JPEGs out of the camera with modern technology and being able to bring back the sky that was blown out today with the D2H because I kept all the RAW files. If I didn't know who these people were, maybe I would have deleted those files. I went back 20 years in an instant, found the files, re-edited the RAW files, sent them over because I didn't delete them. I kept them all. Now, each RAW file is around 6 megabytes. The ones I was editing was like 6.3 megabytes. That was bigger back then, right? And 20 years ago, we didn't have that much storage. We had gigabytes of storage. My card would have been a 4 gigabyte card or a 1 gigabyte compact flash card at the time. And my train of thought just went to people always ask me, how does your brain work? I'll just explain this to you. I was just talking about CF compact flash cards. My brain went to ProGrade Digital is shipping me out 100 cards for Fund a Photographer. They're refurbed cards. They're sending me 50 SD cards, 128s, and 50 256, I believe, CF Express B cards. That's how my brain went there. And I'm like, oh, they're getting shipped today, or they're coming in today. Did I have them to my drop-off location or having them come to the studio? That's how my brain works. People always want to know, how did I get from one thing to the next? That's how my fucking brain went to there. That's why I'm explaining it to you. Anyway, 6 megabytes each back in the day. D2H, only a 4.1 megapixel camera, so not the greatest camera. Shot 8 frames a second. I was only shooting like 340 pictures a day back then because you didn't have as much. You also didn't shoot as much. But the point is, I kept my old files. And you never know when someone's going to call and need that one file. This is 20 years later, and I still had the files in my archive. Quickly was able to, I knew where they were. Like, I knew they were in Z-Dark Archive, and I knew that they were in a folder called Book of Caleb. And there they all were. They were organized, by the way, by DVD 1, DVD 2, and DVD 3. Why? Because I used to burn them to DVDs as the way I would back things up. And DVDs held, what did DVDs hold? 4.7 gigabytes? Is that correct? Is that what what? Okay. How much data does a DVD-R hold? It's 4.7, isn't it? It's 4.7 gigs. My brain, it worked. And then there were dual layer DVDs, which didn't really take off. They were 8.5 gigs because you needed like a dual DVD reader to get that. And then you also had 1.44 megabytes was a floppy at the time. Oh, because I ran into a place that was like a antique store, and they had zip disks, and I was like, "There's a zip disk that was 100 megabytes." It was like 80 times larger than the 1.44, or like 70, or maybe it's 65 times larger. Like more space. It's just insane when you think of that stuff. So yeah, I would save them onto DVDs, and then that's how I had them in my when I brought them over into a hard drive back however many years ago when storage got bigger, I would put them in a folder called that. So anyway, that's how easy it was to go back and get it. Moral of the story, you never know when someone's going to call and you need those photos. All right, let's talk about these gear things. Nikon is releasing or just released. I want to say it like this comes out Friday, so by the time this comes out, I know that this lens is being announced now because I just got the briefing on it. So I'm telling you that this is announced, the new 24-70 2.8 version 2. That is replacing their 24-70 2.8 version original for the Z mount, which is a great lens to begin with. The claim of this new lens is that it's internal zooming, and they say it's the first of its kind to do internal zooming against its other competitors. I don't recall whether the Canon 24 I think the Canon 24-70 protrudes. It's cool when you can have it internal zooming. That's nice that nothing changes and it keeps the dynamic much better. They're saying that it has 5 times faster autofocus than the original. Because it uses what's called silky smooth voice coil motors. Yeah, that's what it uses. So they're saying that it's fast. The other one was fast. This is even faster. And do you know what I noticed that the lens doesn't have? The top LCD screen. Remember when they came out with lenses and they had the top LCD screen and I said, this is fucking stupid. This is a waste of space. This is a waste of technology. This is a waste of time. This is a waste of money because how much extra is it to put an LCD screen here and write the codes and have it connected? It's one more thing to go bad. It is unnecessary. Well, it's been so unnecessary that they've gotten rid of it with most of all of their lenses that they used to put them on. And then the newer versions, they get rid of it because who needs to see like the millimeter? Like it's just stupid. All the information is in your EVF or on your LCD screen. Just look at it. Will you just look at it? What else do I say here? So those out of but my big question here is I get coming out with a version 2, but it's like $2,800 for a 24-70 and it's not even an f2. How much does Sony get? How much is Canon's 24-70 28-70 f2? 28-70 f2. This should come up with both Sony and Canon. The Sony, holy shit. The Sony one is $3,150. Canon's is now up to $3,200, has a $200 rebate or it comes with $200 off. So the 33, this used to be a $3,000 lens before tariffs. So now that a 24-70 2.8 is $2,800 fucking dollars, that is absurd. That is an absurd amount of money. I don't know how you're going to do that when the 24-70 original is $2,100. Like, I don't get it. Like, that's a lot. But my biggest takeaway here is why didn't Nikon make a 28-70 f2 or improve and go 24-70 and do something unique? We're in a world where those lenses are now the norm, faster than 2.8. I mean, if it's a couple $100 more, and you already have a 24-70 on the market, no one's going to bat their eyes and be like, well, I wish they put out a second version of the 24-70 but first. They would be like, holy shit, this is a 24-72 f2? Like, they always talk, and I saw a comment, someone's like, the Nikon made such a big marketing push about the size of their opening. The Z mount was so large, and that allows them to do so much more stuff with their mount and their lenses and the capability they can go with a wider, they could do things. The flange distance is going to be so much better. Sony can't because they have this small mount. Its diameter opening isn't great. They can't do 1.2 lenses. Well, they did a 50 1.2. They haven't done an 85 1.2, but they also have done a 50-150 f2. They've done a 28-70 f2. So that was just bullshit. Sony figured it out. So the thing here is I wish Nikon would have done that. Even coming out with a 28-70 just to say they have it. Even though everybody else has it, well, now they would have a better lens like that. And I don't care if that's $3,200 because of tariffs or whatever, a few $100s more, but $2,800 for a 24-70 is absurd. They should have done something better. All right, moving on. Sigma came out with their 200 millimeter f2. My review is out. You should have seen it by now. It is a very good lens. Fast focusing, has its limitations, can't shoot 120 frames a second on the Sony, whatever. I got 17 frames a second I was able to tweak out. So you're supposed to get 15. I guess it was like 16 or 17. I did my testing where I shoot. How I do that is I take my phone and I hit the stopwatch and I let it go and I start taking photos I hold the button down for like 2 full seconds. Why? Because I can then be sure that I have 1 full second to count the frames. And then I go through and I literally count 1, 2, and I keep turning the dial and I look, and when it goes from, say it's like 1.54 seconds, well, when I get to 2.54 seconds or around there, I know that that's where the counting should stop. I also make sure I have a fast shutter speed, because obviously if you're shooting at a 60th of a second, you're not going to squeeze out the maximum frames per second. You know, that wouldn't add up to the right number. So anyway, it's a very good lens for portraits, but it's $3,300. So it's not priced terribly bad. $3,300 is very good for something like that, but it's a very limiting lens. It takes up a lot of space when you carry it. So you have to ask yourself, do you want a 200 millimeter fixed lens, or is a 70 to 200 2.8? Yeah, it's not an f2, but is there going to be that much of a difference for the majority of the world? The answer for that is no. I rather have a 70 to 200. Let's see, Sony 70 to 200 2.82 is how much is this lens? $2,998. That is one of the lightest 70 to 200s I've ever used. That's Sony's latest 70 to 200. That's less expensive and a little bit more versatile for those people who need the versatility. But they also have a 50 to 150, and the 50 to 150 is $3,800, right? 50 to 150 is 38. Let's see, it's $3,900. That, to me, is incredible at f2. So it's hard to justify purchasing this 200. It's a very, very limited use lens. But for the people that want to use it for portraits, I love the shots that I got of the kid on his walkie bike in the skate park. I love those photos. Great isolation, great focus, beautiful colors on the A9. It looked great. So I'm very happy with the results that I got with that. It's just, if you already have the other glass and you find that this lens is usable for you and you have a big use for it, then yeah, go ahead and buy it. But if not, there are other choices that might be better. All right, the last thing I want to talk about today is the comment that I get from Canon people. There's some people that have Canon cameras, or people that don't have them. They're like, here's the comment: considering getting rid of my Canon due to the lack of RF options. I hear this a lot. And you sit there and you go, what do you mean lack of RF options? And their reasoning is, well, for Sony, for E-mount, I can get Tamron and Sigma, and those lenses are less expensive, but they're still 2.8s. I'm like, I get that. And that is a great selling point. And that has always been a great selling point, third-party lenses for people that can't afford the 17 to 55 2.8 back in the day that was like $1,800 or $2,000. I don't even remember the price of that lens. It was maybe $1,300, $1,400, $1,500. But then people would come in and I'd sell them a 17 to 50 or an 18 to 50 Sigma for $449. Yeah, the quality wasn't going to be the same, but for what they were doing, the 2.8 was what I wanted them to get into, and I would sell them that because they didn't need the 17 to 55 as an amateur. And yeah, that's a big price difference. And I totally get it that they're like, well, Canon isn't allowing this. Well, Sony allows lenses, but there are limitations. A lot of the lenses that Sony third-party manufacturers are making, while you're zooming, you can't continually autofocus. There's also limitations to how many frames per second you can shoot. And I get it that on Z-mount L-mount cameras, the limitations aren't there, but those cameras don't shoot as fast. They're not shooting 120 frames a second, right? And yeah, some of the Panasonics now could do like 40 frames or 80. Maybe they do 80 silent or electronic, but no one in their right mind is using those cameras in the real world. It's a fact. And then there's like probably nobody that actually owns that camera that's listening to this right now. So I look at this and I go, yeah, it would be nice for third-party options to come out. They do offer them for crop sensor cameras for the RF mount. But then when you look deeper, at the comment, considering getting rid of Canon due to the lack of RF options, you go, what do you mean the lack of RF options? The lineup is fucking stacked. I'm going to go through B&H's website here and just scroll down. I just typed in Canon RF lineup, and let's see, 24 to 70 2.8. Now, let me do this with a caveat. They're probably talking about less expensive options. But we'll get to that. I'll read you the prices here. 24 to 70, 2.8, $2,400. 24 to 105, 2.8, that's $3,200. Then you have a Canon 28 to 70, 2.8 is $1,099. All right, so what is Sigma's counterpart to that on the E-mount? Well, it's a 24 to 70, and that comes in at $1,319. So let me look up, the Sigma 18 to 50? No, not 18 to 50. No. It was Sigma 28 to 70. Let's see, Sigma 28 to 70. They have a 28 to 70. That's $939. So that is the direct comparison. That is the budget-friendly lens. It is $939, and it says save $500. So it's already, save $5. Sorry, Jesus, Jared, save $50. So that what makes it $939. Well, Canon's version is $1,100. Yeah, $150 is a little bit of money, but this is a native lens. You're going to get the full capability of the lens without dumbing anything down. So that's just showing you that the affordable options are there. They may not be as cheap but it's damn close for that one. The lineup is freaking stacked, just absolutely stacked. Here's a cheap lens, 51.8, $219. Canon RF 100 to 400, $700. That's an inexpensive RF lens. They're 70 to 200, 2.8, the twisty turn one, $2,800. Then they have the 75 to 300, really inexpensive. We have a review coming of that soon, $219. Okay, so that's pretty inexpensive. Here's inexpensive, 35-1.8 macro, $500. 16 STM, that's not a lens that I would recommend. 2.8, that's $300, but it's cheap. 200 to 800 is $2,000. 200 to 800, let's see. Sigma 50, or let me just type in 50 to 600. I think someone makes a 50 to 600. No, they don't make a 50 to 600. So 150 to 600. I know they make that. Someone makes that. Sigma has a 150 to 600 E-mount. That's $1,650. So it's roughly $400 different there for the 200. $3,200. I mean, it's a lot more expensive, but it's also, I'm looking at the wrong lens. No, it's $2,000. Jesus, Jared. It's $2,000. So yeah, it's like $300-ish, $400 more. That's a lot of money, but it's a 200 to 800. It's a even better lens. The point is that Canon is making an entire lineup across the board of inexpensive, medium expensive, and ultra expensive. They have the VCM line. They have the 24-1.4, the 35-1.4, the 50-1.4. I mentioned when I posted something that they have an 85-1.4. That doesn't exist yet. We can only assume that it's going to follow in the line. That's not out yet. They reached out. They're like, Jared, that lens doesn't exist. Could you remove that? Well, I'm letting you know. It doesn't exist. But we can all use our brains and say that's probably coming out at some point. Then they have a 28 millimeter 2.8, $329. Canon 24 to 105 f4 is $1,400. Then they have a 24 to 105 4 to 7.1 is $429. Yeah, it's not the fastest piece of glass, but they have an 85 f2 macro for $650. So I think you get the point here is that, yeah, they have the options. And then the last thing I'll say about this is, look, you can go buy any EF lens, any professional EF lens from way back in the day. Let's see what Lens Rentals sales. Lens Rentals, they're a great place for used stuff. Let's see, Lens Rentals. I don't know where they have buying stuff. Let me go to another site, but I don't want to say what it is because I don't work with them, but I'll go to their site to look up some stuff. This one, arrow down, and let's type in Canon EF. Let's type in Canon EF glass because this is the thing that people don't like. Why do you not realize this? You can buy EF glass and adapt it seamlessly to any of it. So you could get the best of yesteryear and it adapts seamlessly and still will be fantastic. Let's see. What are super cheap? I want to find good ones. This website sucks. All right, let me type in, like they have a 35-1.4L. The lowest price one is $489. Well, they have a 51.0. I guess Canon made that lens. Let's look up a 24 to 70. Canon 24 to 70 EF, and we'll call it the EF2, the second version. They have them for $589. They have 10 of them available. Some of them are at $1,319, but let's just look at the well-used. The well-used one is $589. I don't know what well-used means, but whatever, $589. So that's just telling you that there are options. They do exist. And so when I see those comments of like, I'm going to jump ship, well, it's going to cost you a lot of money to jump ship. You got to sell your whole system setup. And at the end of the day, if you want those Tamron and Sigma lenses, that's great. You should probably be shooting Sony if that is your only thing, is that. But Canon has the options. And maybe they're 5-10% more expensive than what a Tamron or Sigma would be, but there's no limitations put on those. They're great options. And EF lenses adapted are great options as well. Oh, la, la, la. So I've got a lot to do. It's 11:09. It's time for me to get some lunch in me soon. I think this was fun. I like that my dad called. This was great. I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. Steven should be back. I tried to get some other people on the podcast, some big names, but they weren't available today. I'll get them on in the future, I'm sure. But really, this is a good job, Jared. Oh, that comes back to the comments like, Jared thinks he's the greatest ever, and because he doesn't crop, he thinks he's the best, and that makes him better. Yeah, someone left that comment. Jared thinks because he doesn't crop that somehow that makes him better. And I replied back with, you're right, I do. I do think that makes me better. It could just, if you think about it logically, better in general. If you think about it logically, if I can get the same photo, if two of us get the same photo, but I got it without cropping, and you got it with ultra cropping, and your quality goes to shit, then yeah, I'm better. I own it, man. There is nothing wrong. And people, you're not humble. I'm like, I am humble, but I'm also confident in my work. I know where I suck, okay, and I know where I'm good. I also know when I need to get better. But I do think I like having the mentality. I know that I'm one of the best at what I do in my field. And I know that because that's a self-belief I have. I mean, the last thing you want to be is like, I suck, therefore I suck. And I give up and I don't try. Look, I still fight with myself. And I didn't mention this with the Cal Raleigh photo, is like when I didn't take the photo didn't push the envelope with Trout. Yeah, Mike Trout. It was, would I be happy if I would have gotten the picture? Yeah. But I also have this thing where I like downplay certain things so that if they don't happen, I don't feel bad about it, which is good and bad because I'm able to temper my expectations. But that also means that I don't try hard enough in certain situations. Like I should have gotten the Mike Trout photo, but I'm not going to beat myself up about it. Like I should have at least asked and said, hey, you said you would do this. Can you do this? I didn't, because I was challenging myself. I wanted to see if he would actually do it. But he might have forgot. He might have gotten busy. But I do have a self-belief in myself. Wait, I have a self-belief in myself. That is redundant. I have strong self-belief. And you don't have to say in myself because it's redundant. So I have this strong self-belief, and I feel I'm capable of doing anything. I do think I am better in some situations because of how I shoot. But that's not like, that's a me thing. I just say it out loud. Steven's like, you shouldn't say that stuff out loud. I say it out loud. I internally think, yeah, I'm better because I do this. At the end of the day, if you get the photo, you still get the photo. That's great. Most people probably won't be able to tell the difference. I just think it's a great challenge that I'm able to get it without having to do all those extra steps. That's just a win for me. That's a personal challenge that I take. All right. I'm going to end it right there, guys. Thank you very much for listening. This is RAWtalk episode number 165. It's going to come out at midnight this time because of the Nikon announcement. It comes out at 12:01 a.m. Normally, I put these up 30 minutes early, but I'm not going to do that today because of the that announcement. But anyway, thank you guys very much for listening. Jared, PolinPhotosphoto.com. See ya.